Man sagt, man says, is one says, one says. So this is what you will use when you say something like, how do you say this in German? If you say, how do you say this in German, it will sound like you as an individual. So we want to say, how does one say? And that is man sagt, man says, one says. How in German is wie.
Wie.
How do you think that might be spelled?
V-I-E.
Okay.
W-I-E.
Good. I was going to tell you, V-I-E would be fee, no? W-I-E-V. Good. How? W-I-E. So I-E gives us that E sound, like in D, the feminine word for the. So if you want to say, how do you say it in German is auf Deutsch.
Auf Deutsch.
So how would you say that? How do you say it? How does one say it in German?
Wie man sagt es auf Deutsch.
Good, but we have a question here, no? So we have man sagt for one says, but if we want to make a question, how does one say, then we will invert those.
Wie sagt man es auf Deutsch?
Very good. When you want to know the name for something or how something is called in German, you can point at it and say, wie sagt man es auf Deutsch? Or wie sagt man das auf Deutsch? What was to do or to make?
Machen.
Machen. To do or to make, machen. How would you say, how do you do it? How does one do it?
Wie macht man es?
Very good. Wie macht man es? One does it like this. The word for like this is so. You could just say so.
Man macht es so.
Man macht es so. Good. So machen is to do or to make. Aufmachen is to open. You can even say es ist auf, and it will be perfectly understood that you mean it is open. Es ist auf. Zumachen, what does zu mean?
To.
So to make to means to close. And you can also say it is closed, just saying it is to. How would that be? It is closed.
Es ist zu.
Yes, es ist zu. Anmachen means to turn on. Anmachen, and you could say it is on. How would that be? It is on.
Es ist an.
Es ist an.
Es ist an.
So we have machen, to do or to make, aufmachen, to open, zumachen, to close, anmachen, to turn on. So, as we've been seeing, German is like English in that you get a simple verb, like to make, machen, but then a whole bunch of other meanings by adding to it. Aufmachen, open, zumachen, close, anmachen, turn on, and many more. In English we have the same feature, no? We have to make, which is the simple verb, and then we have to make for, which means like to get away, like make for the train, no? To make for somewhere. You have to make out, which means to pretend, like I'm making out that, I'm pretending that. Or like romantically, no? To make out with someone. You have to make up, no? Which is to invent or lie, no? To make something up. And then to make up with somebody, like after an argument, like we made up. So this way of creating new vocabulary is a very Germanic feature of English and something we find throughout German as well. Now we can identify how we do it in English and understand that the same thing is happening in German, but the words are not always going to match. Actually, they seldom will. Ich darf, D-A-R-F, darf, means I may, or I'm allowed, or I may. Ich darf.
Ich darf.
So we had aufmachen for to open. How would you say, may I open it? Am I allowed to open it?
Darf ich aufmachen?
Very good for the version there for the question, may I, darf ich. But we need it still as well, no?
Darf ich es aufmachen?
Darf ich es aufmachen? May I open it? Or am I allowed to open it? Am I allowed to open them? May I open them?
Darf ich sie aufmachen?
Very good. To turn on, we said was anmachen.
Anmachen.
Anmachen, spelled A-N-M-A-C-H-E-N. So anmachen is to turn on. I have to turn it on. I have to turn it on.
Ich muss es anmachen.
Very good. Ich muss es anmachen. You don't have to turn them on. You don't have to turn them on.
Du musst sie nicht anmachen.
Very good. Du musst sie nicht anmachen. So we have nicht for not, and not yet is noch nicht. Noch nicht. You will hear this very often in German. It's a very useful expression.
Noch nicht.
Good. You could say, you don't have to turn them on yet. How would that be? You don't have to turn them on yet.
Du musst sie noch nicht anmachen.
Very good. Du musst sie noch nicht anmachen. Very good. So we see how müssen nicht is to not have to rather than mustn't. When we want to say I don't have to, we will use ich muss nicht. If we want to get the meaning of I mustn't, then we will say I may not. How was I may or I'm allowed?
Darf.
Ich darf.
Ich darf.
So when this goes in the negative, actually this gives us the meaning of I mustn't. No, that strong feeling in English that we feel with mustn't. Ich darf nicht. So how would you say I mustn't turn it on? I mustn't turn it on.
Ich darf nicht es anmachen.
Good, we have all the elements there, but the S was not in a great position.
Ich darf es nicht anmachen.
Very good. Ich darf es nicht anmachen. Very good. I mustn't turn it on. And of course, this could also mean I'm not allowed to turn it on. Now, ich darf is I may or I'm allowed. How would you say you may or you are allowed?
Du darfst.
Very good. Du darfst. You may turn them on.
Du darfst sie anmachen.
Du darfst sie anmachen. You mustn't turn them on, or you may not. You're not allowed. You mustn't turn them on.
Du darfst sie nicht anmachen.
Very good. Du darfst sie nicht anmachen. To close was zumachen. So to make two, if you think about it, to make two, if you imagine something like a box and it being closed, and you make one part to the other part, that's actually the act of closing something, no? So from that we have zumachen, I guess from that. How would you say, may I close it? Am I allowed to close it?
Darf ich es zumachen?
Good. Darf ich es zumachen? Am I allowed to close it? May I close it? How would you say, I mustn't close it?
Ich darf es nicht zumachen.
Very good. Ich darf es nicht zumachen. So very good. Darf nicht gives us the meaning of mustn't. Give me again, I have to close it.
Ich muss es zumachen.
Very good. Ich muss es zumachen. I don't have to close it.
Ich muss es nicht zumachen.
Very good. Ich muss es nicht zumachen. So muss nicht gives us don't have to rather than mustn't, which is what we get with darf nicht.